Thinking about this, and I'm reminded of the words of wisdom that says there's a tiny line, a thin line between a long drawn-out sermon and a hostage situation. So I'll try to be efficient with my language this morning. And we all do want to make a difference, I think, and I trust that we all want to make a difference in a very positive way. I'm reminded that there's a lot of ways to make a difference by a story I know about. A Mr. Green was looking over his fence, and he noticed that the neighbor's little boy was in his backyard filling in a sizable hole. And he was curious about what the youngster was up to, so Mr. Green asked him, "What are you doing, Jimmy?" And Jimmy was tearful, and he said, "My goldfish died, and I've just buried him." And he said, "That's an awfully large hole for a goldfish, isn't it?" Patting down the last bit of earth, little Jimmy responded, "That's because he's in your cat." Okay. We can make a difference in a lot of ways. Now, I tell you every time I come here that you're more powerful than you know that you are, and I'm going to tell you that again today. You are more powerful than you know that you are. And I want to talk about today why this is true and what you can do to step into your own power. Because each of us is here for a reason, mightily created and powerful. My goals this morning are to give you a spiritual doggy bag to take home with you, to ignite that divine spark within you that is confident and knows, and to reflect back. I want to illuminate the magnificence that is you, and have you see it as well as me. That magnificence within each one of you. My goal is always even beyond that. My goal is to embrace you with my words, to illuminate that magnificence, and to give you something that you can chew on when you leave here. That's thought-provoking and soul-inspiring. So high order for myself, but let's see what we can do. Too often we convince ourselves that we are powerless in the world. The world and its difficulties loom large in our minds, and we feel inept and inadequate to make any change at all, to ourselves or anything else. Many of us unfortunately become comfortable in that powerlessness. We find ourselves talking endlessly about this or that, stuck in a pit of blame, self-blame and recrimination and disgust and sorrow about this or that state of affairs. And I'm here to tell you gently, nicely, none of you here, I know, we all know people who do that though, that doesn't make any difference in the world. Just talking doesn't make any difference. And if we talk about the ills, we actually perpetuate them if we spend too much time talking about them and feeling about them. Still, we are endowed with the power of choice and volition, and connected both to each other and to that which created us out of itself. A spirit and an endless intelligence, a creativity that we are immersed in as a fish is immersed in water, and yet we are like drops of water in the ocean. All of what it is right where we are. This is an infinite spirit out of which the tapestry of our lives is woven out of our own consciousness. And I want to repeat that. The tapestry of our lives is woven out of our own consciousness. What we believe, what we embrace, what we feel strongly about becomes the reality of our lives. So we are powerful enough to make a difference in the world and in our lives. I want to tell you about a person today. And this person I did not know personally. But he made a big difference in my life even after he passed on to whatever's next. His name was Ernest Holmes. And Ernest Holmes was someone who made a big difference, in my opinion. He was born Ernest Shirtliff Holmes in Maine on January 21st, 1887. Oh, I didn't realize he was that old. 1887. And he was born into a poor family. He left school and his family in Maine when he was 15 and moved to Boston. And from 1908 to 1910, he worked in a store to pay for his own tuition at the Leland Power School of Expression in Boston. And there he learned a little bit about something called Christian Science and Mary Baker Eddy's Science and Health book. Okay. In 1912, however, he joined his brother Fenwick in California. He went to Venice, California, and Fenwick, meanwhile, had become a Congregationalist minister, which I didn't know. After this reunion, both brothers began studying spirituality. They studied the writings of Thomas Troward, Ralph Waldo Emerson, someone you're familiar with, and many others. Ernest Holmes married somebody named Hazel Durkee Foster in 1927. After leading small private meetings throughout the city in California, in 1916, Ernest Holmes was invited to speak at the Metaphysical Library in Los Angeles, which led to repeat engagements and a nationwide tour. He was quite a speaker by that time. In 1919, he published his first book, The Creative Mind, and after almost a decade of touring, he decided to remain in California and complete his major work, which he entitled The Science of Mind, which is a huge volume that Centers for Spiritual Living considers its textbook. It was published first in 1926. And that year he started speaking each Sunday morning in a theater in the Ambassador Hotel that seated 625 people. Subsequently, his lectures continued, moving to subsequently larger and larger and larger spaces, and finally meeting in the Wiltern Theater, which seated more than 2,800 people. In February of 1927, Holmes incorporated the Institute of Religious Science and School of Philosophy, and later that year he began publishing the Science of Mind magazine, which is still in publication. He renamed the Institute, it was renamed the Institute of Religious Science and Philosophy in 1935 and was finally reestablished as a religious organization only in 1954. Then it was called the Church of Religious Science. And there's a lot more history after that. But Ernest Holmes, he founded a spiritual philosophy. It's what he called it, a spiritual philosophy. He had no intention of starting a church. He wanted to give people spiritual truths that were practical, that they could use no matter what framework they had, no matter what spiritual framework they came from. It is so broad in application, it's virtually non-sectarian. It's not just non-denominational. So, he spoke through his life. He was well loved. He was a small man, tiny in stature, with kind eyes and a gentle spirit. His last time speaking before a crowd was at Asilomar in Pacific Grove, California. He spoke they met there every year for a conference, and the last talk every year in the chapel was called the Sermon by the Sea. Today, they no longer meet there, but the Sermon by the Sea has been tagged, his last talk was tagged Sermon by the Sea. In this very special talk, he encouraged our partnership with the infinite in these words: "Everything that lives proclaims the glory of God. Every person who exists manifests the life of God. There is one spirit in which we live, one mind by which we think, one body of which we are a part, and one light that lighteth every person's pathway." He felt that the truths he discovered offered a way for us to rediscover what he put this way: that which the great, the good, and the wise have sung about and thought about, the imprisoned splendor within ourselves and within each other, and to have direct contact with it. And what is remarkable is that Ernest Holmes knew that he would not be coming back to Asilomar the following year. He died the following April, as a matter of fact. For in this same sermon by the sea, he said, "One cannot but feel from the human point in such meetings as these that it is entirely possible that one might not be here next year." This is of complete indifference to me because I believe in life and I feel fine. The sermon by the sea was filled with powerful ideas delivered by Ernest Holmes. One of the more inspirational parts of the Sermon by the Sea spoke eloquently of this power within us. And I'm going to share just a piece of this. It was a longer talk than I have time to share with you, but I'm going to share an excerpt from it that I find quite meaningful. And it's an excerpt from which I got my title, Find Me One Person. For he said, "Find me one person who is for something and against nothing, who is redeemed enough not to condemn others out of the burden of his soul, and I will find another Savior, another Jesus, and an exalted human being. Find me someone who has given all that he has in love, without morbidity, and I will have found the lover of my soul." Is this not true? Why? Because he will have revealed to me the nature of God and proved to me the beauty in everyone's soul. Find me one person who can get his own littleness out of the way, and he shall reveal to me the immeasurable magnitude of the universe in which I live. Find me one person who knows how to talk to God really, and I shall walk with him through the woods, and everything that seems inanimate will respond. The leaves of the trees will clap their hands. The grass will grow soft under him. Find me someone who is no longer sad, whose memory has been redeemed from morbidity, and I shall hear laughter. Find me someone whose song is really celestial, because it is the outburst of the cosmic urge to sing, and I shall hear the music of the spheres. Find me one person who no longer doubts, who no longer wavers. Find me one person who has completely divorced himself from all arrogance, and you will have discovered for me an open pathway to the kingdom of God here and now. Find me somebody who has detached his emotional and psychological ego from the real self without having to deny the place it plays in the scheme of things, and without slaying any part of himself, because the transcendence is there also, and I will have discovered the ineffable in this individual and the direct pathway for the communion of my own soul. He made it all quite clear when he added this. Now, what does this all mean? I'm talking about you and myself. When I say find a person, I don't mean go over to Rome or London or to your own backyard. The search is not external. These people exist in us. They are different attributes, qualities of our own soul. And I want to say to you today, ask what would happen. I ask myself what would happen. I would ask you to ask yourself what would happen to you and the world if we really tried to live this way, with no arrogance, with humility, and yet with eyes that see and a soul that feels the beauty of ourselves and everyone else. He said there's a power transcendent beyond our needs, our little wants. There is something beyond anything that you and I have touched. That's what we're at. That's what we can discover. And whatever we believe about God, I heard some lengthy discussion about that this morning. Whatever we believe about this spirit, this creative impetus that created all of us, our connection with it can only be within ourselves. That much has to be true. Our connection must be within ourselves to that which we revere. You don't know how much power you have. We are very powerful. Most of us at this point have been through something where we've set our mind to something and seen it through to fruition. If you've done that, that makes you feel powerful. That comes from a clarity of purpose. I would like you to close your eyes right now for a moment and let us just listen to this self-meditation. The inner mind is still. The soul reflects the Most High. The spirit of humanity is God. In the great calm of all good, I rest in peace and security. My life is now reflecting the perfect whole. I am peace. I am calm. I am security and complete satisfaction. I am one with God. I am one with God. And so it is. I hope you felt that, because you are. You are glorious, magnificent beings, created, and there's a reason for you to be here. It could be the kindness you show to the next person you meet. It could be the light in your eyes when you see a child. It could be that kind thought that you have about something or someone at some point. All of that. And I'm here to say, don't squander your power. Don't misuse it. Don't spend time in any kind of ill will toward yourself or anyone else. Use it consciously and well. Trust yourself and that which is within you. I ask you to move out of judgment and condemnation before something rather than against anything. Develop the habit of asking yourself, how can I express love in this situation? How can I bring love into this situation? Embrace life and it will embrace you. Determine that life is your friend and it will be. Use your power wisely and well. You are unique. You, each one of us, so unique, so beautiful, and so perfect, and so wonderful. And I send love and blessings to everybody here. I really do. Because you are just fantastic as human beings, as spiritual beings learning to have the human experience that we're all learning to have. I invite you to go out and touch the world. Touch the world with who you are. Don't hide yourself. Boldly be who you are. The sun doesn't apologize for shining. It shines. So shine. Make a difference. We can make small differences. We can make differences that are significant right where we are. Find a need and fill it, because they're there. They're there. There's a lot we can do in our own communities to make the world a better place. Leave your imprint. And I know that we are all chomping at the bits to do it. We are all wonderful people. Take time to smell the roses. Take time to get quiet and listen. Take time to explore the deepest reaches of your soul, and you will find that spirit, God, whatever that you seek. You will find it within yourself. And I say, start it today. If not today, when? And so it is. Namaste.